Hi, and welcome to Together We Solve, the Power Couple podcast. And I'm your host, Kelly,
And I'm Derek.
and we are so excited to be here tonight. Derek, can you believe this is our last episode for season one?
Yeah, I mean, it flew by so quick.
I know, and we had some wonderful guests on our show.
We
And
did.
then we also, this is why we're doing just us today because we really want to recap on our guests and what our show is all about for people who are just tuning in.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to go back, recap on some of the amazing guests that we had on. And also, I want to touch on some topics that have been going on within the United States. And I think the audience needs to understand a little bit about our show, a little bit deeper about couples and just about relationships in general. So we'll touch on that and then we can move forward.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think people need to understand, they look at our name, Together We Solve, the Power Couple podcast. And as we stated before, we weren't the ones that named us the Power Couple. It was just people who kept calling us that when they seen us out in the community, working hard to help our community. So we just embrace the name. And the Together We Solve is that we've been through a lot in our life as individuals. And when we came together, there was a lot of problems that we had to solve. And it was better being able to solve the problem with someone else. And how do you navigate through those situations, especially being both divorced and both have children, so we're a blended family. There was a lot of issues that came up, especially during, like, say, COVID time when we were together 24/7, and that make or break relationships, and that actually made us closer.
Right, it did. Yeah.
And I think people need to understand, like, how do you navigate that in society right now? We've been told as females, independent, and it's okay to just do everything yourself. And ladies, let's be real, we do not need to. We could be independent, but we could have a partner. We could have a partner to help us, guide us along. It makes things a lot easier, and it builds a better team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you touched on that, Kelly. I mean, I think the audience needs to know out there that you can be a powerful couple together. You can be with each other quite often and still get along with each other. Most people are like, how do you do that? Like the
Right.
audience, how do you do that? How are you able to, you know, go ahead and manifest your dreams, do the things you want to do in life? How do you do it? What are the steps you take?
But I mean, I think
And
it's about balance. It's yes, we're always together,
yeah,
and but we do work. You go to work, I go to work, and then
but
we come
but a
home
lot of
together.
people, if like I'm sure out there, they're like, I hear it at my own job. I hear it all the time. They're always like, oh, I just got to get away from my significant other. I have to, I just got to get out. I got to do things on my own. I got to take care of myself. I mean, it does start there. You do have to take care of yourself, right? You do need alone time to yourself. But what is it that makes us a little different than others? I think one of the things, in my opinion, is that we communicate well and we try to look at the best in each other. We don't look at the worst in each other. And I feel like when I'm listening to a lot of people out there, I mean, even listen to, talk shows or celebrities, and it's all fake. And I'm not saying the people that I'm around are being fake, but a lot of it's fake. Like you don't really hear them talking about their significant others often. But with us, we're always talking about each other, whether we're in the same room or away from each other. I'm always talking about you. I'm sure you're always talking about me because I hear it from your employees and things of that nature. So for me, I'm always trying to look at the best quality in somebody, period. Not just my lover, not just my friend, which you are, but the best quality. So, but that's where I think you have to start with the foundation, looking for the best in somebody.
Well, you touched on also saying always speaking of each other when we're not around.
Right.
But I think also what happens in social media is some people tend to post their whole relationship on
Right.
social media, right? And what they're posting is the good times and everything is so and when you overdo that, I mean, we post, right? We post about what we're
Well,
doing because we're doing things in the community and we just want to share. But when it's like you see
well, no,
someone.
let's go back to that. We really don't post about our relationship.
No, no,
We
no, no.
don't.
Not really. I said what we're doing
Yeah,
within the community, but you see
let's
both of us
yeah, you're
together.
right. But let's elaborate so the audience understands. So we post because we own a nonprofit called DK Movement Cares.
Right.
So we're consistently doing things within the community. We're doing things out. We're traveling. We're on other podcasts. We just created an unbelievable youth program, which is coming up, where we just actually partnered with the YMCA of Bristol and New Britain and Meriden.
Well, not Bristol.
well, sorry, New
We live in
Britain.
Bristol.
We live in Bristol, forgive me, whatever.
Right.
Meriden, New Britain. So there's a lot of different things we're posting about that. But what we do stay away from, because first of all, we don't really have much negative at home. So that's really the truth. And if we do, we communicate it, but we're not posting about anything negative. And we're not constantly posting, which you're probably alluding to. Oh, we're out, we're kissing and hugging, which is fine, but it's like every day you see something like that. Is that a true relationship? Probably not. Probably not.
Right. I mean, well, let me tell you, when I see people do that and the whole relationship is on and then they break up and then
Almost
it's,
all the time.
no, then it stops and then you're going, well, can we find out what happened? Because
Right, right.
I followed your whole relationship on Facebook. I would like to know what happened now. I mean, you don't need to prove anything to anyone. I think people do that to prove like they're happy and they're in this great relationship. But let's be honest, not every moment in a relationship is like unicorns and rainbows. I mean,
It
it's
can't be.
normal to argue, it's normal to fight, and it's how do you work through those things and
Yes.
how do you bounce back from those things?
I think anyone can work through it. I think you can work through it. I think anyone out there. So if you're listening to this, you can work through it. But it definitely comes down to, I think, like I said, establishing great communication. That's probably just, that's number one. If you look at the divorce rates out there, that's the number one reason. People think it's financials, but it's communication.
Yes.
Number one reason people get divorced is that. I think also in society, like let's go back to what we were just talking about. You see the glitz, the glamour, so kids are looking up to it, adults are looking up to these movie stars, and it's just not real. They don't
Right.
live like that. That's not how they live. They do live like you and I. They don't live this
Well,
perfect.
they are human beings.
Yeah,
They're
right.
not anybody different than what we are.
I mean-
they just have a talent that they are just doing. Like let's take the famous couple right now. Let's take Kanye and
Right.
Bianca, and everyone is on social media saying that she's a victim and oh my
I
God,
don't
he's
think
the
she is.
abuser, and I don't think she is because you're entertaining it as well. Like I understand, like I've been through an abusive relationship and I understand how that can be where you're just kind of like a robot and you're just doing and you're going through through the movements and stuff like that. But this is on another higher scale. I think it's just more of attention that they both
Yeah,
seeking.
right. To stay relevant.
To stay relevant in this business, you have to stay relevant, and you do these outlandish things just to stay relevant.
I think you still need to be real.
Right? No, I agree. I mean, you still need to be.
I mean,
real.
a lot of people out there, and don't buy into it. You shouldn't buy into it. A lot of people are superficial. Even the people you listen to on YouTube, people that you listen to on a lot of even podcasts, they're doing it to get views. They're doing it to get ratings. I can tell you right now, when you come to our podcast, this is real. This is who we are. If you meet us at work, if you meet us at home, if you meet us out in the open, what we say is what we mean is what we do.
Well, I
Period.
mean,
that's what we live by.
But society's used to let's do a video to go viral. Everybody wants something to go viral.
Right, they want to be
15
entertained.
Right, they're 15 minutes of fame, so they'll just do anything just to get that. But they don't realize.
I mean, I could bring you chocolates.
How
you
that-
want some chocolates here, baby?
I appreciate it.
I mean, but right now, I could just every little moment of our life, we can come in here in the podcast and say it's so lovey-dovey, and I can bring you some chocolates, and then I can
want
bring you some
chocolate.
roses, and I can bring
I
you
want
something to
roses.
drink. Of course,
I'm
and I
thirsty.
still do those things. And I surprised you the other
No,
day
you
at
do.
home. Right?
Yes, you do. You do.
I mean, sorry, at your work.
Yes,
Right, I
you
went and
did,
brought
yeah.
you. I surprised you, but
Right.
I'm not advertising it all the time on
right.
social media. You didn't even know I was going to do that, and I just did it.
No,
Right?
I mean,
So-
we do things like that for each other. Like
All
I
the
said,
time.
like when we'll go out to eat, remember I had mentioned to you one time, like I'll look around the restaurant and I'll see, the couple that is sitting like right on top of each other.
Right.
And,
It's
eating.
weird.
And I'm just like, we're
But-
sitting
but to
across,
me-
wait, hold on, we're sitting across from each other. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm sitting across from him. Does that mean that I love him less because I'm not sitting directly next to him? Not to say there's anything wrong with that, but sometimes it just seems fabricated.
But it's kind of weird to me. It's honest. I hate to say it, but it's like you're almost like insecure about with
Right,
your relationship.
right.
That's what it seems like to me. And psychologically, that's what that means too. You're insecure about your relationship. You should be able to at least sit a little bit apart,
Right.
at dinner.
Right.
But that doesn't always happen. So people, I'm sure out there, they're like, well, Kanye West, like you were saying, or how about these other movie stars that you thought had great relationships, right? Brad Pitt and Angela Jolie.
right.
You go on and go on and on and on and on. And let's talk about what's happening there. It's a fantasy world. right? There's
Well, they have a higher standard because people put them on this pedestal,
right,
and they're just normal people in a relationship. And I have to say, for a celebrity, it is harder because your life is being dissected by the media. But also, that's the life that you chose, and you also know that those are the consequences for being a celebrity. So,
well, I'm glad you, not to cut you off, but I'm glad you speak about that. Why else is it harder? They're traveling away from each other consistently. I don't care. We're human beings. We're sexual creatures. If you're constantly not around your partner, you can set yourself up to put yourself in a bad situation, even if you love that person a lot, because you're not around, or you could be months and months without seeing that person. That's the other reason why I think it's harder too. If you're not around the person quite often, you can draw apart from each other.
but I meant just the whole living that fantasy
Oh, that too.
world that
Yeah.
everyone wants to see, that you
No, I
guys
agree.
never fight and every time you're together. Because forget it, if you capture footage of Beyonce and Jay-Z had an
Right.
argument, oh my God, the world has ended. No, they're a
Right.
married couple and they
Right.
had a fight, like
They
just
had
like
a fight.
anybody,
Right.
just like anybody. But then that's plastered all over, and then they got to
Right.
explain themselves, and it's not fair because they shouldn't have to. They're human beings too.
Well, whether it's fair or not, we don't know what that relationship really
No,
looks like. You're seeing where they hire sometimes cameras to catch them in a good light too,
right? Of course.
or sometimes the camera catches them, the tabloids catch them in a bad light. Also,
Or they capture
right?
something and they take part of it, and that's what you see, but you don't see the whole thing.
Right. You don't
So,
see the full
right.
narrative of the
hmm
story.
Well, that's social media in general.
Yeah.
They're going to
A-
post what they want you to see.
And social media, in my opinion, has led to the downfall of marriage, and it's also led to the downfall, I think, of relationships. Forget about just marriage, especially in the poorer neighborhoods. You do not see relationships last. It's been for quite some time, at least since the 1960s. It's been women's rights, only women's rights. And I don't care if people get mad, but that's what has happened. And I talk about it on a consistent basis. And this is why we fall further behind in the Black and poor communities because of that. We don't have a strong bond with family. The father's out of the house. I didn't meet my father until the age of 16. Very similar, your mother and father, right? They weren't together.
No.
There's no bond there. Now you go through all kinds of trauma, which if you listen to our show and some of the guests we had on, I talk about my trauma. Kelly talks about her trauma and how to overcome it and how you can become successful. Because you can't, anyone could become successful, but it's about mindset and taking steps. So we really need to touch on that, how important it is to have a relationship. It doesn't matter what your relationship looks like, as long as you have two people in that relationship
hmm
working to communicate together. That's a great relationship.
And also, you got to share the same kind of goals, working hand in
I
hand.
think
Because
values are
and the
important.
values and stuff like that. Because if you don't, I mean, it's going to be hard to work
Right.
if you're like complete opposites. And
Well, even if you, well, let's say you are complete opposites, but you communicate and again, I'll go back to it, in my opinion, you also trust that person, you communicate with them. The other big thing I would say, you have to also have confidence within yourself that that person is going to be, they're going to love you the same as that you love them. But you'll see that physically. You'll see the signs. It's not just going to be them brushing you off. You'll see signs, right?
well, the social media has played a big role in that
Huge,
because
yeah,
the
absolutely,
confidence part is what
absolutely.
you see on social media.
You need a
As
six.
a woman, you're like, oh, I need to look like this. I need to have that hourglass figure. I need to my body or this, right? And the same thing with men. They
Well, I
have to
think
look
it's
a certain
worse
type
for
of way.
men. So at least women, if they're somewhat attractive or even not attractive, there's a lot of men out there desperate to have just even be with a woman because of someone that's 6 foot tall. Make
No,
six
I understand that,
six
but women
figures.
have
Oh, I'm saying, yeah,
they're taking it.
there's
I
self
mean,
identity crisis
right,
all over the
right.
place. But I was saying in general, women have a much easier chance of hooking up and being in a
Oh,
relationship
I
than
don't
a
mean
man.
about hooking up. I'm
Yeah,
just talking about self-confidence in
yeah.
general.
No,
So,
self confidence. Yeah.
I'm gonna go and make my lips bigger and this
Oh, the
with
butt
and
implants.
implants
Yeah.
when it's not necessary, right? It's just like, why are you enhancing so much? But is that for yourself, or is that because you're seeing that's what you're
Right.
seeing?
With
So the
this.
visual
Right.
that you're seeing all the time, and I have two daughters, and I tell my daughters like, love yourself for who you are, not
Right.
for what you think that you're supposed to look at, like you see on Instagram. It's not all, and there's filters, there's Photoshop, and we were living in a alternate reality, thinking that I seen a post on Instagram, and I don't know if it was serious, but the woman was speaking about how she's happy that women are no longer looking to get Botox and all this stuff and fillers, right? And how as a society, but when you looked at her whole face was done. And people were commenting like, wait a minute, have you looked in the mirror? Because you're that person. But she wasn't even identifying herself as that person. But she was saying people shouldn't do that. So it was like a weird kind of like conversation that she was having because you're trying to understand, but why did you do that to yourself?
Maybe she's reflecting back. I don't know.
Oh, I'm not sure.
On her mistakes. I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, the way it read, it wasn't, it was like she didn't take in that she has done this even to herself, that this is how she looks like. And she's telling people that I'm glad it's over, but you're still doing it to yourself. It just didn't make it. It was like a
I don't know. Maybe
contradiction.
Maybe she wasn't self-aware.
Right. Right. And that's the problem. Sometimes we're not self-aware of our own actions and the things that we do and not taking accountability for things. And then that's where we lead down to these insecurities and stuff like that. When we have trauma as a child or as a youth or as a young adult, and we don't take accountability for the things that we've done in the past. As you said, you were a bully, right? But you owning up to that. You listen, I was a bully and I'm sorry. This is what I did. But some people can't even admit to that. They won't even see the things that they've done to other people. So how can you ever heal and be a better person for yourself if you can't even take accountability for the things that you've done?
Well, I think we lack honesty with ourselves, and therefore we lack honesty with others. So if you lack honesty with yourself, and then you're definitely going to lack honesty with others.
True.
One of the things I can say, even when I was a young kid and going through all that trauma, I was very honest. My mother, bring my mother back up again. She would always say, "Why do you tell everyone everything?" Right? Even when I'm out, right? When we're talking, even you'll say, "Why do you say so much information?" Because I'm giving away good information. That's why. But that's just my personality. I like to talk to people. I like to educate people. That's just who I am. I just, who you see is who you get. Sometimes it's rough around edges. Sometimes it's very polished. Sometimes it's extremely loving. Sometimes, there's a gamut of different things. But always you're going to get the truth from me because I'm truthful with myself. So if I do something, I mess up, I'm frustrated. Most of the time is because I'm frustrated at myself. Therefore, then I might have an argument with Kelly about it. And she's like, "Why are you really, upset?"
Right.
And then she brings me back to reality. Same thing with her. So if you're looking like to end a conversation to where you're not going to have it escalate, which sometimes it still does escalate, it's really, you're going to have to check yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I check myself a lot.
But it happens. It happens even then because the issue is still that deep where you're still like, at that moment, you don't know how to get out of that trigger.
Right.
But some of the things you can do is you kind of relax yourself and then realize,
do you realize that it is a trigger?
At that moment when you say something, yes. But
not everybody does. Like, so the first thing is if you're recognizing that, okay, I'm being triggered over something that has nothing to do with what you just said, but it just triggered an emotion that I had from past relationships. So that trigger, now my reaction is going to be the same reaction it was with that other person, but you're not meaning it like that. But my mind is not. And sometimes you're right. It's like you have to check yourself, be like, wait a minute. That's not, he didn't mean it like that. And vice versa. Because sometimes when I know that you get mad and I said something and it triggered you, I remind myself, hold on, he's triggered and it wasn't me. Because it works both ways.
Absolutely.
Because if I kept just coming at you, even if you're trying to check yourself, but I keep coming at you and I'm not recognizing that I triggered you.
So you're saying know when to pause too.
Right. You got to know when to pause because it works both ways. I can't come in and be an attack dog and expect you to just to be like, "Oh, I'm triggered. I'm sorry." And then I still just keep reminding you of that trigger. It's not fair.
Right. Yeah. So recognizing it. So some things I think you can do is you could stop, pause, try to listen if you can. One of the things I've worked on consistently especially over the past 3 years, listening better. And it's helped. It's helped all across the board. Taking time, reflecting. If it's really bad and it's a really bad trigger, maybe she dug deep, not on purpose. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not.
I was going to say, no.
But whatever. So for me, my outlet, somebody may not have the same outlet as me, but exercise is my outlet. So I'll go to the gym or go for a run. If it's that bad, and I'll just say, I'll be back. And that's it. Because I don't want to talk. By the time I get back, I'm great. I'm feeling great. Hopefully Kelly's feeling great. So that's one thing I say, man.
Sometimes.
Women take a lot longer.
Yes.
To simmer down.
I'm going to agree. I'm going to agree. Well, my thing is I'm going to just leave and I'm going to go in the room and I'm going to isolate. and I'm gonna put some music on, or I'm gonna isolate because it's too cold for me to go outside. I don't drive, so I ain't driving, and I don't work out, so I ain't going to the gym. So it's gonna take me a little longer to like
Yeah,
just
sometimes
come.
a full day.
Well, it depends on the
Yeah, I know.
situation.
I'm not saying. So, so if you know you ever really dig in, not well, maybe sometimes,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But I'm sure you all can relate. And listen, you dig in, and the woman's not over it. In the morning, my
Oh,
suggestion is
just leave me alone.
bring her some coffee. And then by halfway in the morning, we're good.
Yeah,
We're in the car,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
you're good.
yeah. Then
Yeah.
I probably finally checked myself and go, Kelly, do you really want to stay in this bad mood for the rest of
So
the day and
anyone
waste
out
the
there,
energy? Because it's a waste of energy, guys. Like when you sit in that moment for way too long, like I could get upset, but then it's like you gotta like know when to get over it.
I
But
think they need to really. They
it's
say,
it's exhausting to stay like mad for the whole day because I just wasted the whole day, right? We
yeah.
could have had plans to do something, and the day was, and I just sat there and said, "Nah, I ain't doing nothing," right? But who benefited? Nobody, because now I just ruined the whole day. So why even bother? The key is that communication
Yeah.
piece, because then I learned. You know what? Just communicate with that person what really did upset you, because sometimes our perception of what they meant was off,
I
and it's
say
not even
most of the time.
right. And he really didn't mean what he said in the way that I took it. So
Right.
if we could have just communicated like 10 hours ago, that I wouldn't have sat in that moment for 10 hours and went to
Well,
bed mad and woke up still pissed off.
it's very rare that we get into those types of arguments.
Right.
But when we do, it's because we didn't communicate enough things and I misunderstood or she misunderstood.
Right.
It's exactly that most of the time. Actually, I say all the time when it comes to it. We miscommunicated a lot over maybe the past week.
Right.
Before it built
right,
up, right?
right. It built up.
And then that explosion happened because now I'm not listening, she's not listening, and then boom. If you guys can relate, please, leave a comment because honestly, this is the best way to handle it. But then after that, I have to look at her and say, what am I really mad about? So, right, I
It's the
start,
time we don't forgot.
yeah, I do.
Because it
But
stood so long being pissed off for
because to
what?
me, I've already solved the issue. The issue was I really listening? Could I have taken it in the right way? And then sometimes if you're a person, you should write it down. Right. Some people need to write it down. Me, I'm very good at just going inner, and then sometimes I do write it down. Like I write my goals down and stuff like that. It depends. It depends on what the situation is. It depends on what we were arguing about. It depends on what we were talking about. If it was nonsense, I'm over it right away. If it was something a little more deep, I guess I'm still over it right away, for the most part. Especially after the gym, I released a
Right,
lot.
right, yeah. Yeah, I just leave you when you just go. I'm like, all right, he's pissed off, and I'm just gonna. I mean, sometimes I do follow.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, because I'm pissed, and I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't get my point across, so I'm gonna follow you until I get my point across, and then I'm gonna leave you alone.
Yeah.
But it wasn't always like that, and I think that happens a lot in relationships. People, and I know I've done it in the past, where when something got hard, it was easier just to walk away and just like move on, right? Because you don't want to deal with those emotions, the anger. You just like, I'm just gonna end it. I'm just gonna keep it moving, and
Yeah.
that's it, right? Because it makes it easier. But now it's more difficult, right, to work through those issues and to really have to find yourself. And not a lot of people want to do it. And that's why a lot of people are not in long lasting relationships or not in relationship now, and just want to be, as you say, independent, because we don't want to deal with that. We don't want to deal with our own trauma, why we're reacting like that. We don't want to deal with the other person. And let me tell you something, the grass ain't greener on the other side. You're thinking that when you're married and you think, okay, I'm not going to say every marriage should stay forever, right? Because there are reasons why some marriages probably need to end, right? I'm not going to
Sometimes
say
there's
that.
just distrust there.
But right, whatever the reason may be, but sometimes it's just because you don't communicate, and
Well,
then when
most of the
things
time, that's the number
right
one,
when
like I said.
things get hard,
Yeah.
you don't want to work through it.
Right.
You think you want that honeymoon phase always, and that's not how it works. That's not being realistic, and that's what we see on social media.
Right.
You see the honeymoon stage for like the whole year, but yet you don't see the
Well,
real.
that's all you ever see is the
Right.
honeymoon stage.
Right.
Right. They're out. They're at a show.
Everything is beautiful.
Everything is beautiful. But you see that out even now. I go back to YouTube couples, right? You'll see that they're doing great. They're hugging, or Facebook couples, right? You see all these followers. Oh, they're doing great. There's a couples that we follow. I'm not gonna call their name out, but it's like every single post They're doing such lovey-dovey stuff. And it's like, are you for real? Come
Right.
on.
I mean, listen, we
Come
always said
on.
we needed cameras to follow us,
Come on. I mean,
especially when we get into our moods because it's
I'm be
funny.
honest,
It's funny.
it's absurd. And you guys follow these people like they're gods and goddesses when and you want your relationship to
To
be
look
like
like
that.
that, no,
And it doesn't work like that.
no.
It's just not realistic
Expectations.
expectations.
And that's why when it doesn't
Right.
happen, right? Because it's
And
not
you
a real
shouldn't have that. You shouldn't have
and it's
those
not a real
expectations.
expectation, then you get like it's such a disappointment because it didn't happen the way
Right.
you saw it or you feel that it should happen because of other what you see. And then those expectations are not realistic.
Or they see Chad and Tyrone, you know, that's to say, on TV, and they're like, "Oh, I want him. He's got a six pack." Come on, you know, it's just it's not realistic. You know, if your guy's going to work, he's showing up, you know, he's trying to take care of the kids, trying to do the best he can. Love him for that. Don't look for something else. I see so many women out, right? They're disrespectful too. A
Hmm.
lot of women are disrespectful right in front of you, right? And when
Yes,
we're
they
out,
are.
a lot of times it's like they'll put their ring away when I'm out. I go home and tell Kelly. Everything that happens, I tell her, oh, yeah, this is what's going
Yeah,
on.
we laugh
This
about it.
person, right. And we laugh about it. That way I'm having an open, you know, dialogue. What has happened? Yeah, I mean, it's just disrespectful. It's just disrespectful. And you have to respect yourself. You really do. I know you're getting tired of hearing people say that, but it's such the truth. And what does that mean? It means you're being honest with yourself. If you want something better, and look how you look too. Are you looking like $1,000,000? Are you in the best shape of your life? You know, how are you taking care of yourself? How are you taking care of your children? Or those people that talk about, oh, and oh, you should do this with your kids, and then they're running around, their kids are misbehaving. It's the same thing.
Right.
It's the same
Right.
concept over and over, and you see it a lot. And it doesn't matter what nationality, but you see it all over across the board, and it's got to stop. It's got to stop. You know, when you're talking to people like us, we're going to give it to you real. We're going to give it to you honest. So if you call us up for relationship advice, we'll be happy to help you. But at the end of the day, we're gonna tell you the truth. We're gonna tell you the truth, but it's gonna help you. It's gonna help you get over the things that you need to. It's gonna help you communicate with that significant other. It's gonna help you stay married longer. I mean, I can tell you now, we've been together 7 years, and it's flown by like no other relationship
Yes,
I've
it
ever
has.
had, and that's truthful, right? I mean, I've never spent more time with somebody in my entire life, and I'm still happy to spend
Right.
more time, which is odd. But
Why?
that's how our
Right.
relationship started, just us talking over the
Oh
phone.
yes.
And I
Yes.
mean, I wasn't supposed to, but
Right.
that's how. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, the key was getting to know each other and talk and really open up, and share, and just share with each other,
Right.
share our feelings and get to know one another on a more deeper level than just more being a physical level.
Right. So out there, what we wanted to touch on, like some of the other things that have been going on, some of our other episodes. So we had Christine on.
Right.
That was a tough show.
Right.
That was our last show
yes, that was the last show that
before
we
this
did
one.
before
That's
this
what
one.
episode 4 was
Uh,
that? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Two, three, three,
Three.
three.
Episode
Sorry,
3. Sorry, guys.
Yes, yes.
Episode 3. She had major trauma with her mother. I had a lot of similarities with her, but she's thriving. That was
Right.
the whole point of the show. So you guys got to watch that. She's
Right.
thriving.
Yes.
She
yes.
has a show here on Nutmeg, which we're filming here now today, Nutmeg TV. I mean, she wanted to hang herself at the age of 5. We put
Right.
that clip out.
It was
So make sure you
very,
guys check
yeah.
that out.
I mean, it's when you listen to someone first of all, for someone to be so open to share their story and to share that trauma,
That's
it's not
brave.
that easy.
That's
It's
brave.
very brave because she put herself out there, and Christine, we appreciate that because there's probably others that are watching that are going through the similar situations as she has been through
Right, since she was a little kid.
since she was a little kid, and in their mind there's no hope. There's no hope, that they don't think that they're going to amount to anything because of the trauma but she's sitting right here living proof to show you, like, listen. And she took that pain and she turned it where she was speaking to others to help others heal and making a difference in other people's lives. And that's what our show is about. It's helping and making. Everything we do is about making difference in other people's lives. And we talk about our traumas in our life because we want other people to know that you can make it. You can make it through it.
I mean, everything that we talk about from on this show, at home with our kids, at work, outside of work, out in the community, we're the same all the way around. If you meet us, anyone knows us, we're very consistent on how we portray ourselves, how we think about things. I never really switch my thought process on we should communicate with one another. As you're hearing on this show, to me, you have to respect yourself. You hear it all the time. You have to set high goals for yourself. You have to be respectful to yourself. Then you have to be respectful to others. But you also have to set high standards. What do I mean by that? Like, I can't just show up one day, let's say, I have this show. I need to be on time. I need to make sure that I'm on time. I need to make sure I'm on time. You need to make sure you're at time. So just like at work, if you're struggling at work, if you're struggling at home, make sure you're on time with the things you can control. If you know you need to exercise, very important. Mental health issues. I mean, right now, JFK is he just got sworn in. He just talked about it. The food that we eat. It's huge. It's huge. It's a big, big, big deal. What you're consuming on TV, what you're listening to, what podcasts, what radio stations you're listening to. It makes a big difference who you're following. If you're following rappers, if you're following people that are talking about they want to kill themselves, if you're surrounded yourself around people like that, are smoking, drinking, every once in a while, I guess that's fine. But again, I abstained from that. I quit 11 years ago on purpose, started working out, doing better. My life changed around totally because of that. So start taking some of those initiatives, right, Kelly? Then you can build a really good relationship. And our relationship in the beginning was very hard, not due to us. There was outside influences with the divorce that I had to go through and then fighting for my son. But that brought a lot of complications. And sometimes that can tear
Hmm.
a marriage or a relationship apart. We had our struggles, but we became better communicators. Actually, during COVID, the more time we spent together, the more we appreciated each other, and the more we decided to help others and spread the love to others. And that's what this podcast is all about. We are great at solving problems. And I can tell you that we solve problems in our daily lives. We solved our own problems. We help solve other people's problems. And like I said, we have the youth program that we built that's going to solve a ton of problems for a lot of kids all across the United States of America. But I think we got to stop looking up to the stars, right, Kelly? I mean, you came from that reality. I mean, even sometimes I get on you a little bit still with the makeup, the extra makeup. I like the natural look,
I'm,
but
s-
I get it.
that's not going to change. I'm turning 47 and I've been
You
doing this
still
all
look
my life.
beautiful though,
Thank
but
you. Listen, I'm not saying that the natural look is not good because I'm not going to sit here and say it to me is more my enhancement of myself. Um, I've been without makeup. You get so
yeah, no,
used
you
to it
have, yeah.
and or it's to me it's always about just looking presentable for myself, for my mental health well-being. If I don't feel good, at least if I say, okay, if I'm looking, if I get up, take a shower, my hair looks nice, my clothes are ironed, I
No, of
look good,
course,
right?
yeah,
It's about
of
presentation. And I
course.
grew up about presentation. So you feel different. If you come out and you're in pajamas and you got your hair tied up and you just and with chanclas, the slippers on your feet, walking around and a bonnet on your head, how do you feel? But if you went and you put on that
No,
suit and those
I
heels,
agree.
it's a different, you feel more confident, you feel different.
I
So
agree. I
that's
just
what
don't
I'm all
want. I
about.
don't want women to overthink that you need to have always the makeup
No,
on. You don't
no, it's
need to
not
be so
necessary.
glitz and glammed
No,
up,
it's
especially when we're talking about these Hollywood stars, singers, rappers. They're always glitz and glammed
but
up. That's
why
all you
though?
ever see.
But
That's all you ever see.
the reason why, I doubt they're in their house walking around like that. But when you're in that world, and I'm going to speak on that because I was in that
Right.
world, when you stepped out your house, you never knew who was taking a picture of you. Like
No, I get it, but
the
this is
sidewalk was the red carpet. I'm from New York, and you went outside and you walked the city, and you never knew who you were going to run into, where you were going to end up. So you came out presentable, right? But if I'm going up the block to the store real quick, I'm not worried about putting a full
right.
face of makeup because I'm going to go buy milk. I mean, even though my grandmother told me when I went to the laundromat to wash my clothes that I needed to look a little more presentable,
Right.
and we used to laugh about that. But that world is like you're always used to looking a certain part because that world, you never know who is coming up, and you see it all the time. You see celebrities pictures posted on a day where they didn't have the makeup and then they're ridiculing them because they look natural, and
I
I mean
know.
that's wrong.
I know, and I'm just saying that
It's
that affects
society
the
that's that
psyche
right, but
of
that's
our
what it
young
does. Right,
children.
it does.
Right.
It puts in their head that they have to look a certain way.
And for the young men, it's like, oh, I got to grow up. I need this, I need to be ripped all the time. I need to always have a six pack, which is great. Like, I work out
Right,
a lot myself. You should be in best shape of your life.
right.
But at the end of the day, that's not the end all be all.
No,
That's all I'm
no,
saying.
it's not. As long as you're healthy and
Right.
you're feeling good about yourself, that's the
You
key.
want to be in the best shape of your life. I'm
Right.
not going to ever say that. You're going to want to eat the best food. You want to make sure you're shaving, cutting your hair when you're a man. You
Right.
want to make sure you're ironing your
And there's some
clothes.
people
I'm
that
not
I know
saying
that
that's not the case.
don't
You
wear
do.
makeup and
Yeah.
they're flawless and they just never wore makeup in their life and they're confident in that.
Yeah.
I just got used to wearing makeup
No,
because
no,
of the industry I was in, and that's
right.
just then I feel weird when I don't have it, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
which
that's
is
just
understandable.
right. But I worked through. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, guys, when I moved here, I mean, we were going to church and I was like done up like I was going to step in the red carpet because I was so used to
Right. No, you've tamed it down. Yeah.
like that was just what I was used to doing. But I tamed it down because I was like, okay. And then it's kind of more like a relief because it's not that necessary. And you're just like, finally, like I could just tone it down and I don't have to do all this all the time because it's work.
Right.
It is work.
And then I mean, we also had who else? Who else did we have on?
We had a Robert, who was
Oh.
a former police officer, and he wrote his book, and he was talking about the things that he had to go through. I mean, being a cop,
He got bullied when he was younger.
right? He got bullied, right? Exactly, and then he went into boxing and things of that nature, and then he was a cop chasing people on the horse.
And I spoke about how in that episode where I was a bully for quite some time because I was bullied from my mother.
Right.
So there's a lot of kids out there, if you're listening, you don't have to take it out on other people just because whatever happens to you. It's not acceptable. It wasn't acceptable. I did it. I learned a lesson when I punched a good kid. He was a good kid. And I regretted it after that. After that, I stopped bullying and I became a protector. But again, there's a reason sometimes why people do things. So we should understand, I guess the moral of that is understand that maybe that person, if you just talk to that person, if somebody had just talked to me, what is really going on? Why are you like this? You're a nice kid. And eventually people would say, you're such a nice person. Why are you doing these things? No one understood what was happening fully. So nor did I want to let them know.
But again, it's the other person, like that's what our youth program about is having those people, right, that's going to talk to those kids and say, hey, what's truly the matter? Because we're very judgmental.
And tell them it's not acceptable.
Right. The people become very judgmental and they just think, oh, you're just bad. There's no such thing as like just a bad kid. He's just bad and he just wants to do things.
Unless they have mental health.
Right. That's something different. But I'm just saying, the normal, oh, that kid is bad. He's not. Right. But obviously something is not right. And if you dig deep, I mean, there was a video that I seen on, I think it was social media, of course, right? Where a kid came into the school and the guy, like wanted to, I don't know what the teacher. He came in, right? And then the guy just hugged him. And this kid broke down crying and all he gave him was a hug. Okay. And that shows that kid was hurting inside. I doubt he probably really wanted to come in and do what he was planning to do, but that's a cry for help.
Well, I mean, there's people now, if you need a hug, listen to us. Embrace
when
us.
you see Derek, just hug him.
Just give me a let me know first. It might be kind of weird. But honestly, there's people probably listening now to our show, will listen to our show, that they just need a hug. Hey, we're here for it. Leave a comment. Let us know.
Or just need someone to listen to them. Like I've learned, because I like to talk, and as you see, I talk very fast. That's just my nature, right? But I had to learn, like, through my life and my different career experiences. I was a lactation consultant and I used to deal with new moms and work in the hospital with, pregnant moms. Emotions are all over the place. The hormones all over the place. And just learning to just listen to them and to understand where they're coming from. Sometimes that's all somebody needs. It's like, sometimes I don't even need your advice. I just need to just let it all out and say, what has been bothering me all day. And Derek knows, he'll pick me up from work sometimes and I'll get in the car. I know. And even today, I got in the car and I'm all disheveled and my mind is going at 150 miles per hour. And I'm just like, because I just need to get it out. And then it's like, okay, I'm done. I didn't even need him to tell me it's going to be all right or give me any feedback. Honestly, I just don't even want to hear it. I just needed to let that out.
And again, this is very true, guys. You gotta understand, women just want to get it out sometimes.
Yes. That's it. I just want you to listen.
Because even if you start talking, you might be the bad guy.
Right. Just don't say nothing to me. Just let me just regurgitate and nod your head. And okay. And that's it. That's all I wanted. I didn't need, because then you start trying to give me advice or tell me why you, and then emotions it turns left, right? And I'm like, wait, what you mean? Right? And then I have to realize, wait, he's just trying to help me right now, but I'm just like all over the place.
But make sure you know that maybe that person's trying to help you.
It's awareness, right?
Yeah.
Again, bringing back to that
Yeah.
self-awareness. But sometimes your mind is so heightened at that moment, there's no awareness, and you're just letting it all loose and you're letting it all out. And sometimes people just need, you just need to sit there and listen. I had people that just sat there and listened, and then when they were done, I'm like, "Are you okay?" And it was just like, I just needed to talk to someone, and I'm good now.
But the one thing I always tell people, no matter whatever happened in your life, it's not acceptable to keep using that as a crutch.
Oh no, no.
We use it all the time, right?
Oh,
And when I catch myself doing it, what are you doing, Derek? You're not a victim. I'm not a victim. Whatever happened before, whatever I did, that's before. That's in the past. That's not happening right now.
right.
And we blur the lines. I can easily blame every single thing that ever happened to me on my parents or society or because I didn't grow up in the best neighborhoods or I didn't have the best education, whatever it may be. No one forced me to drink. No one forced me to punch that kid. I didn't understand how to deal with my emotions. And that's why it's important to have a program like we have, the youth program that we just built. It's extremely important to listen to people. It's extremely important to be self-conscious of yourself. And it's extremely important to start to take steps to control the things you can control. So even if you are in a bad situation right now, there's something you can do to control your situation.
Of course. I always say, you have a choice,
You don't have to
right?
smoke
You
weed
have
if you don't.
you have a choice to do this or that, right? To go this way or go that way.
But people don't think so. They think like
Right.
they're desperate, they're in despair. Because I've been there before. You've
We
been
all
there.
been there before, yes.
And
we
you're
do.
like, you think there's no way out, and this is the worst situation ever, and why did this happen to me? And you got to stop. Right there, you got to stop, and you got to slow down and realize what you're at. You still probably have a place to live at this point.
But it's about being grateful for the things that you have.
You,
And
you,
sometimes we don't look at those simple things and being grateful. I think if one thing COVID taught us, with a lot of loss that was happening at that time, like, appreciate the little things that you have. I mean, we were isolated, we couldn't go outside. So you miss like, you couldn't be around people, and those little things
I mean,
that
do you
made
have
us
food in your belly
right.
at this point?
Right. And
Even
there's people
even
that
if you're in a
don't.
shelter, and you could say this, right? I lived in a shelter, but I had food in my belly at that time.
Right.
I ended up being able to sleep. I had a bed at that time. Was it the best situation? No, I'm not going to sit here and say it was. But I was provided for. I slept on floors before. I myself put myself in bad situations where I was in such a drunken stupor. I lost everything at one point. I didn't have to. I could have made different choices. Back then, I didn't understand. There was different outlets.
Hmm.
I had an outlet. I remember now, and I didn't take it. Instead, I took what I thought was a better decision, but I really wasn't because my thought process was skewed because of drinking.
Right.
And then who you're around. So, point being, that's what relationships about. That's what we talk about on the show. This is what some of the guests we brought on, like Robert, like Pat, which we'll talk about next, who's a business owner where I work out at. Fantastic guy, powerlifting. I'm actually looking to probably set the state record drug free, 45-year-old division. And I just started lifting 10 months ago, and I'm looking to set the record. But again, I'm always trying to challenge myself in a new way. I'm always trying to become better for myself, for my family. Um, I've been through so many things, even with my kids, right?
Hmm.
That was a huge, hard, difficult situation. But I could have made different choices there. I don't think I failed my kids now, but I didn't have to marry the person I married. Again, drinking. I didn't have to do the things that I did either
Right.
towards them. Same thing. I
Right.
could have left.
It's choices.
Choices. But I'm extremely happy where I'm at now. It's the best situation I've been in probably my whole entire life. So you can change no matter where you came from, no matter what you've gone through. It's not a cliche, it's the truth. And if you really want to learn how to do that, listen to this podcast. Follow us on social media. This is the building blocks. Like, where can people follow us? I know Like just
Yeah, they
some
could follow us on all social media platforms at Together We Solve on Instagram and
right.
Facebook, right? And also our
The nutmeg.
nonprofit and Nutmeg TV is
Yeah.
where they can view the podcast, and then also check out our nonprofit, because our nonprofit is where it started. It's
Hmm.
it's where we came
We
together and
also have
said.
clothing. We
I mean,
skip over
we
that.
have so much
Right.
stuff, but everything always it boils down to us wanting to help others. At the end of the day, no matter, even as individuals, everything we did was about helping and building others. I always say to like my employer, I want to set you up for success and not failure, because if you failed, then I feel like I failed because I didn't guide you the proper way. Now I could give you all the resources that I can, right? But then, and Derek, you tell me this all the time, if
Yeah.
the person doesn't follow through, like, then I have to say, it's not, there's only so much I can do, because then I still feel like, oh my God, you didn't, you failed, and I can't take that with me, because
Yeah.
the person, again, they had a choice, and I gave them all the things that they needed. And that's in general in life, and anybody
Yeah.
anybody that you're around, my family, anybody that I'm around, we all have choices whether we're going to stay around
Right.
those people, or are we going to leave those people. When I left New York, I left for a reason. I left because I needed to change my life. I needed to stop drinking. I needed to leave some of those people who didn't have my best interest, which I thought they did, because I was just not in the right mindset, right? If I'm drinking, if I'm drunk. So I was a choice, and that was a choice that wasn't an easy choice, because everyone says, "Hey, you left New York with your two kids and just left to Connecticut." And honestly, that's the best choice I made in my life, because I wouldn't be sitting here right now being able to talk to others, give advice to others, help others grow, and all based on my life experiences.
Well, not just that. I mean, what we have built, I probably wouldn't have built on my own.
Right. Right.
I probably wouldn't have. Could I have? Maybe. I don't know.
Right.
But even if I could have, I don't think I would have felt the same way that I feel now. The accomplishment that I feel even at my job. I talked to one of my employees today, right before we came here, one of the best pupils that I've ever had. And she told me, she's like, yeah, I mean, you helped change my career. You helped change my career. And it's just, I practice what I preach for myself, inside of work, outside of work, our nonprofit. I don't think there's too many people like us. Sometimes people don't even believe us because of how truthful we are.
I know.
And that's very sad. And that's kind of why we touch about it. Because if you want to follow people, at least follow people that are going to be honest and truthful. A lot of people out there you're following, guys, they're not being true with you. They're being fake and phony. You don't have to follow us, but at the end of the day, at least look for people that are genuine. How do you know that? You're telling you the real. Like we're sitting here telling you the real. We're telling you our life stories, how we overcome it. How can you overcome it? We're not giving you no BS. We're saying, hey, no, you have to take ownership for yourself. How many people, your employees, my employees take ownership for themselves now, but in the beginning they didn't. It
Right.
was the company's fault. It was
Right.
everybody
Well,
else's fault
it's
but
easy to
themselves.
deflect and to blame others, because
Right?
it's a
Same thing.
ticket.
I could blame you.
Hmm.
I can blame you for every argument if I choose to. I can find something
Right. We
to
all
blame you
can.
for, right? But how is that beneficial for our relationship? I'd much rather look every day and say, what can I find good about Kelly? What can I find good about this person around? And if you can't, then yes, that's not the relationship for
Right.
you.
Right.
Or that's not the friend that you should be around, even if you've been around them for 20 years. If they're drinking, smoking, or going out to the club, or they're saying, hey, let's go have a girls' night out and there's other guys there and you're hanging. No, same thing with the guys. You're out at the club, you have a faithful woman at home. What are you doing? What are you doing? It's not cool. It's not cool. Especially if you have a family, especially if you have a dedicated woman. I'm going to tell you guys, I don't care what you think. It's not cool. I don't care what all these other podcasters say, free agent lifestyle and all that other stuff. Good for you, right? Because that's BS. At the end of the day, you can't have a good woman. Some of them are not trustworthy. Maybe more so than not. I can say they're not, for sure. But you have to have some kind of faith. You have to have some kind of faith that the woman's going to be truthful by her actions. You have to see what her actions are. If she's out, and a lot of women are going to disagree with me, and they want to go take trips to Florida, like for a week. I know family members that got divorced over that because the chick was cheating.
Right.
I call it how it is. Looked like that, a great relationship. Kelly, I'll let her speak for herself. She's not taking a week trip.
No, because you're not either.
And a lot of people look at that as wrong.
Well, they can look at it. I don't see we could take a trip together or
Absolutely.
we could take a trip with other couples
Absolutely.
together. But why would I want to? Listen, I want to hang out with girlfriends. We could go out to dinner. If it's a family member, we can go out to dinner. I mean, I don't drink anymore in that, so I'm not gonna
Well, we don't need to
go.
drink.
We don't, no, I'm just saying. So some people say, oh, we go out for a drink. Like I
But
go out
how
to dinner.
often do you hear, especially the girls' trips? I hear it all the time, or the boys' trips. We're
Right.
gonna go.
They never end well.
What for?
But I mean, I know. Listen,
I'm a guy who had a lot of punani, and I'm gonna tell you guys, what are we doing?
well, I used to have I used
What
to
are we
listen
doing out
to
there?
guys speak about their guys trip,
People are full of
and I'm looking at them going, I know your girlfriends.
right.
Why are you telling me this? And it was like, oh, because you're cool. And then I'm like, okay, I'm thank you, but now I have to look at your girlfriend in her face, knowing that you went to DR and you did all this stuff. That's not cool.
Or how
Like,
about this, Kelly? Like 2 years ago, remember we went to Foxwoods?
yes,
We're at the sugar factory. There's like 5, 6 girls there. It was a girls' trip.
right.
How are they acting?
It was bad. It was bad. Yeah, it was bad. I hope they were all single.
How are they acting?
Well,
They weren't single.
No, I'm just saying because that's what
That's
you.
my
That's
point.
what you hope.
They're not.
Right,
They weren't.
right,
There's
right,
no
right.
hope. They weren't. You could see the rings on their finger. How are they acting?
Yeah, it was bad.
Right?
It was bad. Yeah.
But that's consistent. And I think you tell yourself this because you're not happy with your relationship.
Right. Right.
You're not happy with your relationship because you're not happy with yourself because you're searching, just like you're searching for that perfect person.
Well, no one's perfect.
That it doesn't exist.
Right. Nobody is perfect. We all have flaws, and we need to
It
embrace
doesn't
those
exist.
and accept them.
It doesn't exist.
Like you
And
accept my
yeah,
loudness and my
you accept my
aggressiveness.
flaws.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's what people are looking for. They're looking for this
No, I know.
perfect relationship.
Well, because that's what we see.
But it's not real.
You know, you watch a movie and you watch a
Right.
romance movie, you're like, oh my God, and this. It's
and I'm not saying you don't
real.
need to do romantic things.
No, no,
and,
no.
And I'm not
Yes,
saying
of course.
that, listen, go hang out with your guys for a day or, or something like that. But
But the
for
whole
me to be a whole week away,
Yeah, no,
I don't, I'm sorry, guys.
no.
Like, what are we doing? Like, you're not pulling the wool over my eyes. I know what I'm.
Well,
I know,
the only
like,
time you were away for a week,
I
you
took
were
the
with the
kids.
kids.
Right.
And I was here working because I started a new job.
But
and
this is very
That's the
controversial.
longest we've ever been apart.
Right.
And we've never been apart ever since.
But it's very controversial. I mean, I hear it all the time. No, you can do this. You can go. All those people, and then they have this relationship.
just lying
you see
to themselves.
You see them together, and they're with her, and then all of a sudden you read on social media, "Oh, you didn't know we were almost going to get divorced." Of course, yes, I did, because it would.
right,
I
you
knew.
could tell, right?
I could tell because no one's that lovey-dovey, and then you're going to spend 3-4 weeks apart. I'm sorry. I used to sell Kirby vacuum cleaners for a living. Anyone knows what that is? That's door-to-door sales. And some of the best couples, I would ask them, what made you guys stay together so long? 40, 50 years, long time. Exactly what they told me, guys? Oh, we were always together. We always made sure that we communicated with each other. We made sure that we respected each other. Those are always the same answers. It doesn't
Right.
matter what nationality. I run into black couples. I run into Italian couples. I ran into Spanish couples. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? Because I never saw a good relationship back then. I was only like 19, 20
Right.
years old, whatever. But that's still stuck in my head. I still remembered what they said to me because I asked them. I was like, I didn't know what a relationship was, what it looked like. And I was like, but you guys never cheat on each other. At least that's what they said, but but
Right,
they were
right.
together, and they said they were always around each other. And you guys still, I found it hard to believe, but now fast forward,
Right.
this many years later, we're together, and I get it.
Right.
I didn't get it back then. I get it now. I mean, I think people have to be realistic with themselves. They have to be realistic with what they're seeing, and you have to start putting plans in place to start bettering yourself, so you can start attracting. We're going to start talking about manifestation pretty soon. Attracting good souls to you. I mean, we're a day apart, February 25th and February 26th.
You better not forget.
So we're Pisces. Some people believe in that stuff. Some people don't.
Mhm.
I believe in it. A lot of characteristics. We're very loving. We have highs and lows,
Oh yeah.
but we have more highs than not. Because we check each other.
Yeah,
we
we
check
check and
each other
balance
well,
out,
but we
yeah.
check ourselves. We learn how to balance ourselves. So if you guys want to take that journey with us and you want to follow, we're just getting started. This podcast, everything that we're doing nowadays, with the youth program, with our nonprofit 5K race that we have for the third year going on, just partnered with the New Britain, uh, Meriden
New
YMCA.
Britain,
I'll get it
Maryland
right one day,
YMCA.
whatever. But these are huge accomplishments that we consistently keep pushing ourselves. Eventually, we'll be across the United States. Eventually, I mean, we have the house of our dreams that we manifested. You can do it too. You can do it too. We can't. I came from basically nothing. As you guys, if you ever listen to any of the podcasts, I was beaten, drunk myself. I lost everything, gained it back, lost it, and now, here we are. We're a regular couple. We're giving real advice. Anything you want to end on, Kelly?
I just feel that people just need to realize that they don't need to be alone, and this is not the time to be alone. Having your family, having a significant other around you to help build whatever you need. Life is too short to just try to chase something that's not realistic. Do a lot of soul searching, see what you really want in life, not what you think you want because other people have it. And it is okay. You could be, I'm gonna say content, but if you living in your apartment and that's the job and you're happy, that's okay. You don't need to look on Instagram and say, "Oh well, I guess I'm not happy because
But if you
I don't
want
have
it,
this."
you should push for it.
Right, and I'm not saying don't push for it. I'm not saying to always try to get more. But some people, the problem is that you're happy, but then because you start feeling
Right,
sad
then
about
you start feeling sad.
things that you don't have, that you probably don't need, but you think you want it because you see it and everybody's telling you that you want it. Like really focus on your own thoughts,
right,
and not really what everybody is implanting in your head that you should have or should want.
Well, again, where can they find us? Together We Solve.
Yeah,
the
on
Power Couple
Instagram.
Podcast.
Yes, and you can go to our website, twspodcast.com. If you would like us to be on your podcast or you'd like to be on our podcast, please hit us up and follow us on all social media and check out Nutmeg TV.
Be grateful. Be grateful. Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Good night.
This is Bristol Health Cares. Special thanks to Nutmeg TV. It's a nonprofit organization. An organization that's going through some difficult times right now and needs your support. Many of you out there have cut the cable, as I have cut the cable. And a lot of the funding that took place for nonprofit stations like Nutmeg TV throughout the state of Connecticut, as people transition from cable TV to the other methods of getting their content, the funding has gone down and down and down. And so programs like this, like you're seeing today, and the programs that you watch on Nutmeg TV, may not be there in the future if we don't all rally behind them and help them with our support to the extent that we can. So have a wonderful day, and until the next time, this is Kurt Barwas, President and CEO of Bristol Health, signing off.